excited. Today we have a very educated, very special guest, Julie Knight, with us. Welcome, Julie.
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
Hello. And I know it, so you guys know it's like, I don't know, noon our time. Is it 6 or 7 p.m. your time in the UK?
7 o'clock, yes, 7 in the evening. So yeah, a little bit ahead of you.
Yes. One of the things, though, I love is that we can connect internationally. And I think that that gives us a powerful voice for all of us techs to unite, to be able to, in situations like this, get the education out there. And so I love that. And sadly, we're all in this crisis together where we're not able to do our normal job and all of that. So how are you holding up right now with all of this?
I'm one of those that kind of accepts that things are what they are. And I've used it as an excuse to do my books for two companies, because obviously they were due back to the accountant and to Companies House. That's obviously a UK thing. I've updated all my course manuals, done quite a lot of mentoring with my students. And I've used up all the paint that's in my cupboard under the stairs. So I've run out of paint. So all those jobs that have been on hold for, well, that's 7 years. Thankfully, the paint was still okay. Yeah, I got a lot done, so I've not been idle.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually have made more time available for my online stuff. And normally I would do it like at the end of the day or on a weekend and book. And now I find that I'm more relaxed being able to go online and be able to engage a lot more. So I think it's actually kept me busier in a way that it's making me kind of reanalyze, like, what type of clientele do I want to rebuild back up, because I was working two full-time jobs, absolutely, and where do I want to focus at? So it kind of allows you to, I always say, refresh your why of what you want to do and refocus on. Now, you just launched something last year, I believe, Behind the Mask.
Yes.
And so has this given you more time to continue that platform as well, and like what you said, kind of update your other online stuff? Or are you going to go like back into a salon setting? What's your refreshing that you're doing?
Kind of. I mean, as I expected, Behind the Mask was launched in August last year. So it's a free online training resource for anybody in the UK hair and beauty industry. So it was designed culturally for the UK in terms of statistics, but also where you can go for extra help in the UK. But actually, a majority of it would travel. So a lot of the principles that would be UK based would be anywhere in the world. So it's no surprise to me that during lockdown, a lot of our colleagues were looking for opportunities to upskill. So we went from, in 6 months, around 12,000 people having taken the training, which was awesome, to around 12,000 people having taken the training in the last 2 to 3 weeks. And it's been incredible. So, yeah, I never expected it to take off the way it did, not at all. And it's just so heartwarming that there are colleagues in the industry who can see the value of knowing or recognizing the signs that somebody, whether it's a client or even a colleague in the salon or a member of the family, just seeing those signs that something's not right. Somebody may be experiencing signs of abuse, bearing in mind that sometimes we're not always right. But actually, how to start that conversation in quite a sensitive and informed way that won't go and put your big foot in it. So it's just being human, really. But we often get people tell us stuff that they don't tell anybody else. So we've had a case in the UK. It was so tragic back 3 years ago, where somebody visited their hairdresser, disclosed that her boyfriend was going to kill her, and 2 weeks later he did. In the most horrendous way. So we do know that we get those kind of disclosures to people like ourselves. And the big question mark there is actually, what do you do with that information? So a big thing that I've been doing is raising some confidence that actually, if you think that somebody's life is in danger, doing nothing is not an option. Because ordinarily people can tell you all sorts and it will stay confidential in your salon, in your treatment room. But there are just some things in life that no matter who that person is, if they tell you something and you think that life is at risk, you cannot do nothing. And there are people who have been told things that really do regret not having said anything, and they've actually gone on camera to say, please, don't do what I did, because I'm now having to live with that, because if I spoke out, it may have made that difference. So Behind the Mask has taken off in ways that I never thought it would. It's incredible. And of course, I think I underestimated it, so much so that I was actually personally issuing all the certificates. So I was inviting people to mail me after they'd done the training with any queries and things like that. Of course, the first few months, I was just, I mean, so many of our colleagues have actually experienced domestic abuse as well. So not only was every single email saying, oh, thank you so much for doing this. This has been a massive gap in our industry. It really is needed. And actually, I've got a story to tell as well. So you cannot deal with those emails quickly. So what I found last year when I was developing it and launching it was I actually had to cut back on a lot of the extracurricular things that I was doing. Like I wasn't laying on quite so many training courses, and bearing in mind that Behind the Mask has got off the ground because it's what I've gifted to the industry. So I've not raised money to actually get it off the ground. It's all been personal investment of my time. And I think some people may say, well, I mean, I specialise in eyelash extensions in the UK. So I'm not a nail tech, but I do have my nails that look, that's about 6 weeks. So my shellac is doing all right. But yeah, look after them, even though I've been painting. So people would ordinarily ask, with all validity, well, what the heck does an eyelash technician in the beauty industry know about domestic abuse? So what qualifies you to create a course and put it out there? So this is something that may shock a lot of people, but I'm literally 4 months away from retiring as a police officer in the UK. So I've been 30, yes, surprise.
Wow.
Yeah, so for 10 years, knowing that I was going to retire at an early age, 49. So it's my birthday in 2 days, so I turn 49. And yeah, so I know I retire in bang on 4 months. And so I was literally creating a business, you know, on the side and developing it so that I can instantly, you know, close the chapter on one career and literally step into another. But yeah, there's so many facets to what I actually do within that career. It's just amazing. Behind the Mask is one of them. So not only have I got kind of 30 years of policing expertise in terms of actually looking after survivors in my first sort of 10, 11 years of service, and then getting promoted through the ranks, and then working with partners and thinking about strategically what we can do to reduce the incidence of domestic abuse and what we can actually do to help those who survive it, but also get the perpetrators to change their behaviour as well. Otherwise, you're just getting involved in that cycle. So, and of course, through that, I've got a lot of contacts in organisations who support women who have survived, but also in academia as well. And I know that certainly my constabulary did an awful lot of work with the university in Bristol, and one of the doctors there had done quite a lot of focus work with survivors. So yeah, so she shared that with me, which was great. So there was an academic insight as well as a lot of my professional experience. But of course, I also bring a lot of personal experience into it as well, because I've kind of not been backwards and coming forwards with this. It's something I never shared until the last year, for, you know, getting on stage and talking about my why. And for the first 10 years, you know, I didn't know what a dad was. I always thought that dads were there to smack their children and to beat their mothers up. My dad was not a very nice person. And of course, we were, you know, my dad was in the armed forces. We were based overseas in Germany. So my mum was very, very isolated with 3 young children and somebody who was financially controlling her. So she went without food so that she could feed us. He was beating her, so he was an alcoholic. He would be really awful to us. And when we moved back to the UK and she made the decision to leave, she met somebody else, and we then moved on the day before we should have moved. That night, somebody set fire to the house, and ordinarily we should have been there. So we suspect that it was my dad, but couldn't prove it. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, I'd never want to see the guy again. And it's taught me an awful lot about raising my daughter. And because, I mean, I thought that was normal, that, you know, mums get beaten up, kids get beaten up. And then when I met my stepdad, I realised actually that really is far from normal. And Yeah, of course, my first kind of proper boyfriend, bearing in mind I was a police officer in the first year, so I was in a professional occupation. My first boyfriend was also in the police service as well. He was in a professional occupation, but he was very controlling, very coercive. So he decided where I could go, who I could see, how much money I could spend. And after 3 years, I'd had enough. So when I said, right, I'm walking away now, he wouldn't let me. So he locked me in the house. And thankfully, I kind of expected this reaction and had my shoes on already. But I ran to the first floor, climbed out of a window. I was a lot slimmer and fitter at the time. Shimmied down like a waste pipe onto the garage roof, then ran to the nearest village. And this was before mobile phones, so I had to run to the nearest village to phone some friends to say, "Come and rescue me." And of course, it's just kind of putting it across there that it doesn't matter, what your circumstances are, whether you're young, old, you're religious, or your ethnicity, or whether you're in a professional occupation. This can happen to absolutely anybody. And certainly within the UK, we know that 1 in 4 women will experience some form of domestic abuse in their lifetime. And that is far too many. And recent statistics show that 2 people lose their life each week because of domestic abuse, which is no way to escape it. But more recently, with lockdown, we're having a lot more domestic murders. So for the first 3 weeks in lockdown, 5 people a week was the average. That's just incredible. So at the moment I was thinking, yeah, we're going into lockdown, in terms of with my police hat on, I was instantly thinking, okay, right, we're going to see a rise in domestic abuse, and it's gone up by 25%. And that's just what we know about. Imagine what we don't know about. And also going to see a rise in cyber-related crime and stuff like that. So, and it's all played out. And that's one of the travesties. So whereas, we've quite enjoyed, stepping out of our business and thinking about it and doing all those odd jobs that we've been wanting to get done for a long time, sadly, we know there's people out there that, oh boy, after we've done behind the mask, there's people that are going to be coming into our salons and our treatment spaces who are going to have those signs and that probably just need that empathetic voice from us saying, actually, you know what, I can see that you're not your usual self. And then offering them an outlet to talk. So, I mean, yeah, we all often joke that we are counsellors in the counselling sense, but without training. But what I've said with the training is, it's not about you trying to problem solve their problems. They're their problems, they own them. But it's about recognising the signs, being able to strike up a conversation in a sensitive way without putting your foot in it, but also signposting to those who are far better able to help them. So some of the organisations that are there that are best placed with proper skilled trained counsellors who can talk through what their options are, because many people don't know that those organisations exist, which is quite scary. And the other scary thing as well is, I mean, I have personally helped 6 of my clients, which is why I wanted to share this and get it out there and make it accessible by putting it online and making it free to take away all the barriers so people wouldn't have an excuse not to do it. And so I thought, oh, actually, if I've actually helped 6 people and they were really awful cases, then just imagine what goes on in other people's, if you know what to look for and how to start that conversation. Because many of my students were telling me, I just don't know what to do. I can just tell this person isn't their usual self. How do I strike up that conversation? So I thought, you know what, now is the time to share. So, so that's how Behind the Mask was born.
I love it. So my husband's law enforcement, and it makes me emotional. 2 weeks ago, I was reached out to from somebody that lives in another state. They just know me online, and they knew my husband was in law enforcement, and they're like, I need help. And so we obviously didn't know the context of her state of what to do, but we were able to lead her in the right direction. And as far as I know, she is in a shelter at this time. And so there's just a part of us. Sometimes, like if I wasn't married to my husband, I might not know those resources. So it's important for us to share that out there. And isn't it amazing that your past, from your own personal experience, I know like Tony Robbins and Dean Gracio, who are like big public speakers, they talk about the mess to the message. meaning that you've lived this or you've seen this firsthand. Now you
Mm.
can share the message, and not only it through your career path choice and through your own, mess of life of what you had to deal with. You didn't know that you thought that was the norm, and so
Mm.
many people think that that is. But until
Yeah.
you shared your message, this had nothing to do with your law enforcement side. Your own personal story can help somebody else. But
Mm.
now you have all these additional resources. I love how you've pulled all of this together and turned this into something else. So my question kind of is we know that it's available for the UK.
Mm.
Are you going to extend out into the US as well? Can US people sign up for this, or can there be somebody to contact you to create like a US branch and a Ireland branch and an Australia branch and all of that? Because this does need to be worldwide. So do you have a vision for that already in place, or is that something that we can help you develop?
Well, that's a brilliant question, because about 3 weeks after launching, I mean, this is the power of social media and sharing, isn't it? I was contacted by a couple of people in Canada, 3 people in Australia, somebody in Ireland. So those countries that you mentioned, and a couple in the US saying, actually, can I do the course? But also, is there any way that you could extend it to our countries? And at the time, because I'd only just launched, I said, that's fantastic. You know what? I have gifted this to the UK. And if somebody wanted to pick it up and run it in a different country, I can talk you through. I'll gift it to you to run. But it's interesting because we've used the downtime. I've said we've had sort of 12,000 people do the course in such a short space of time with lockdown. Well, we've also used that time to actually automate the issue and allocation of certificates, and the support book that goes with it, and the logo and any other materials that we've kind of put with the course. So that's fantastic, because it means that I'm not spending 6 or 7 hours actually issuing those certificates, which is incredible. But it actually means that anybody around the world can take that course. So I was only chatting to my daughter about this today, because I mean, she has just come out of 2 very toxic relationships, and she's going through a lot of counselling at the moment, and she's coming out the other side, which is brilliant. But she was made to feel totally useless, worthless, and she's been self-harming and all that kind of stuff. So she's moving to a much better place, which is amazing. And to help her, I've literally asked her, would you actually be the campaign manager for Behind the Mask? So she's really, had a fresh eyes on the website and worked with my husband to automate it. So it's given her a sense of purpose and worth. So I was only chatting with her this morning, because she was saying, Mum, you're getting more and more inquiries about, can you design this for the US? And can you tailor it for people in Australia? She said, Mum, you really do need to catch up with those people who are really keen to do this. And I said, yeah, actually, we probably need a family conference just to work out, because my husband is an IT techie. So he does all my websites and all that. So I'm very, very lucky. So I kind of throw the conundrum over to him, and if he can't work it out, then our business coach is all about online strategies and stuff like that. So we throw them the question. So yeah, we're kind of mulling around now, because so many people are asking us. But I was also very conscious as well, because I think in the US you have cut it out, don't you? Which is face-to-face training. So I think that's in quite a lot of states, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which sounds fantastic. So obviously, when I was researching this a few years ago, because I had the opportunity to bring it into the UK, or into where I work as a police officer, about 6-7 years ago. But I decided that it wasn't right for a statutory agency, so policing, to actually introduce it, because then that's an organisation doing unto an industry. So that's why I thought, actually, let's develop it so it's come from the industry to the industry. And I think that's probably why it's taken off. So of course, back 6-7 years ago, when we were researching it, I noticed then that there was all this amazing work going on in the US, but I learned a lot from it, because I thought they're generating a lot of people to do face-to-face training, and I just thought, I know how the mechanics of businesses work in the UK, and if we don't make something accessible, simple, that they could potentially allow their staff to take protected learning time for no more than half an hour, so they could do this at home, to log on and self-serve training which you can just go back and keep redoing as often as you need, but then have the resources at the end of it that you can keep in your back pocket. I thought I'll just end up putting barriers up, and I probably won't have enough resources to try and do it face to face. So that's why within the training, I said, this is just the start. If you are really passionate about this and want to know an awful lot more, there will be organisations. I mean, in the UK, we've got community safety partnerships, which is all the statutory agencies that work together to keep communities safe. And many of those are now offering this kind of training. So I did get invited to go and speak at one very recently, but it didn't actually give any more than what was actually in the online training, which was interesting. But there are support organisations out there who may offer bespoke training to people in the community. So whether you own a florist shop or you know, if you're a counsellor, or you know, you're a personal fitness instructor, they will help them to spot the signs of abuse. And some of those courses are a lot more in depth than what I'm offering in 22 minutes. So I was quite ruthless in making sure that domestic abuse is such a complex subject, and I really wanted to do it justice. But I thought I had to be quite ruthless in thinking what goes into it and what must stay out of it. Otherwise, it will just get too big and unwieldy, and I would lose people. So yeah. Going back to your question, can I launch it in other countries? Well, you know, yes, we can. Yeah, we just need to think about how we do that. So do we use the existing website and then just have the different flags up there to say, right, this is now been culturally prepared, you know, with the statistics are relevant to the US, and signposting to the support agencies that they are, you know, there's the channels in the US. And then I was conscious that there may be countries out there that don't actually have that level of support, because somebody contacted me from Cyprus saying, well, we don't actually have that. And the police service, the way they deal with domestic incidents within the home is very, very different to what we do in the UK. So yeah, so there'll be, I think to do that, I probably would need to work with some very willing volunteers where they are, so that we can understand the cultural concept. But like I say, if somebody wants to pick it up and run it, I would happily gift everything and help them tailor it and help them launch it. So I'm not precious over it. I think the more people that do this, the more chance we've got to either change somebody's life for the better or even save it. So that's my driving passion behind it.
Julie, I had no clue it was to this extent. You know, I'd read up on it. I had no clue. And so my husband and I foster as well, and with him being in law enforcement, and us, the goal is to reunite the child with the parent. And it's amazing how many times the parent even has gone on, maybe they're being abused, but then they also abuse the children in it. So no, this is not isolated to one person, and it might be physical abuse to one end and then verbal abuse continued on. And sometimes the children need those resources as well. And that's where my heart and my passion is, getting these children to stand up and know that they have a voice. I'm kind of getting emotional about all of this because you're speaking to my heart. So I will absolutely volunteer to be a part of your group to be able to make this bigger. And I think because of the resources that we have and me being in the beauty industry, I know that I could help be value with you as well. Like I want to bring more to you, and I'm in awe of you right now. And so thank you for using your past, and thank you for using your career path to be able to do this. And I love how you said that you wanted to make it from the industry to the industry, and that's what's going to make it more powerful. You know, there's a post that's been going around, and the person that reached out to me actually saw a post like this, and it made me see the post again, because I'm not in that situation. You know, sometimes you read something and it doesn't pertain to you, so it just kind of scrolls through. And now when I see it, I look at it so differently. And so they're putting it, it says something like, if you are having a domestic situation, to please message me saying the word shellac, because maybe it will instantly trigger that person that you are in need of help, and then they can go through your page and whether they get a hold of law enforcement or, you know, whatever, to help you, so that all you had to do with, say, this, password per se, for all the other people to recognize it so that your team can come in and help you. But being able to reach out, I think, is the hardest thing for them, and especially for children as well. And so, even if you're not the one being abused, but your children are, you need to stand up for them. And it is your place to reach out to somebody for help. And it might be somebody you don't know. It might be like what happened with me a couple of weeks ago. I did not know this person. They just knew that I would listen. And so please know that there's many of us out there that you just be confident, put all your must together and reach out to a person, no matter what form you do. And please, 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 guys, listen. If somebody says, I need help, you don't just wait and, oh, well, what do you need help with? No, you call them. What is going on? Get into it right now. They're reaching and they need that now. And so your response needs to be now. And I do feel that whether we're in the beauty industry or just as a human being, that's part of, the oath that we take of being able to be blessed on this earth is that power of our voice and listening. And so I'm in awe of you, Julie. Is there what else? So let's talk about, for right now, so that people can get into the training and understand what you're talking about. What's the web address, or how do they sign up for that?
Yeah, it's really simple. So just visit our website, which is behindthemask.online. And you can tab across to the training page and just follow the instructions. You log in and you take the training, which is 3 short videos. And at the end, you can download your own certificate and download the support pack that goes with it. It's that simple. I often get emails from people saying, how do I do this? Because I don't think people realize how simple we've tried to make it.
I love it. So that's powerful. Absolutely powerful. And thank you for being the sunshine for all of us to be able to learn more from you and all of that. It's phenomenal. And to have your husband be an IT guy, your daughter also, deal with this. So she's going to be emotionally and personally invested as well. I can only imagine the team that you build up is going to be this powerhouse team of people who their heart is in it, and because they get it and they understand it. So I think your numbers are going to raise a whole lot more than where they are, and your impact is going to be greater than what you will probably ever know. And so thank you for deciding to take on another career path after retirement from one of the toughest jobs.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I mean, 30 years in policing, it's amazing. And I know that I could technically retire in September, but putting my feet up and not doing a great deal is just not me. So I'm not one for sitting watching television. I'm used to getting up early, going to bed late, and packing a lot into the day and trying to feel productive. And yes.
So I normally start tech talks out with, how did you get inspired, or what inspired you to become part of the beauty industry? Now more than ever, I'm like, how did you go from being in law enforcement, and at what point did you decide, I need to be a lash tech, and then I need to start a school for this, and then continue on? So what inspired you or brought you into the beauty industry?
You would never guess. So 10 years ago, I had two girlfriends over, and we were chatting away over lunch, and one of them said, a girl I was at university with, she's just gone away and done this eyelash extension training, and I wouldn't mind doing that, but she said, I'm too scared to go on a course on my own. So I said, well, I'll take a day off work and I'll go with you. And I said, who did she train with? What did she think the training was any good? And then we Googled it, and she said, okay, yeah, we'll book onto this training course in 2 weeks' time. And I completely was just there to hold her hand. And we were in a room full of people, and it was, many years ago, the training in the UK, there's quite a lot of talk about, what counts as good training, what counts as not so great training. And we were kicked out within 3 hours and 5 minutes with a certificate that said I could go near people's eyes with glue that resembled super glue and 2 pointy tweezers. And given all my background, which is all around, question everything has to have an evidence base, I thought, I don't know what I don't know. So I felt unconsciously incompetent and I don't like feeling that way. And of course, there's not all the sharing network forums that there are today. And yeah, so you're very much alone. So I just practice and practice and practice, did a lot of research about what are these products that we're using, how do they behave for the environment. And you kind of notice that the moment you put a cotton bud on your glue, this thing starts smoking, and you're thinking, wow. And then you learn it's an exothermic reaction, this is quite dangerous. All this stuff that you should have been taught in training that you're finding out through trial and error. And then when I started building up a client base and had people coming to me with work that I can only imagine the tech thought was really great, but was causing such damage to the lash line and ultimately the industry, that's where I thought, actually, I need to then diversify and start training people to help raise the standards. So I did start doing more courses with other suppliers. And the first 2 or 3 I did, it shocked me because they were looking at what I was doing and they said, well, hey, actually, what are the products you're using and why are you doing it that way? And when I explained, they said, I like the way you do that. So it was almost like I'd gone there to teach them. So I thought, no, I need to turn this on its head now. So yeah, I've probably done about 30 plus eyelash courses. And I love it. I love it for the networking. So quite often you go and you may pick up a snippet, or you may pick up, I love looking at the different techniques of trainers and just looking where I think they've really engaged, it's really worked for that class, or things where I think, actually, I can see where I can improve what I do. And I just love the networking. And of course, I go to a lot of conferences, not always in the UK, I will travel as well. And it's amazing how many lifelong lash buddies I've got. They're everywhere. They're all over the world. It's incredible. And when you bump into somebody and you recognize their name off Facebook, and then you realize, oh, we've been chatting away all these years, and it's just incredible. But yeah, I got into it quite by accident, just by having a chat over lunch with a mate who was far too scared to go and do a course on her own. So she did a bit of practice on my lashes, and the moment she dropped her jade stone with the adhesive on a brand new carpet and you can't get it out, that's when she decided it's not the thing for me. She gave up, which was so sad. So she still giggles at where I am with it all now.
I love it though. Oh my goodness, that you are just amazing all the way around. And obviously, when you get into something, you go in all in
all the way. Yeah,
which it shows and on all of that. So are your obviously, so in the US, for us to do the training, you can't do the online courses. Everything that we have to do is in person hours and stuff. But right now, some of, like, I was a guest speaker for a school in Florida, so that they can get their hours in, and we just talk to business stuff and how to start your business, and the different things that are out there like that. And so some of the schools are allowing the theory time to be done online. And so is that kind of some of the new guidelines that you have as well? Can part of your course be done online and then the rest of it's in person, or is it all in person? How do your courses set up?
Well, we have noticed a trend in the UK over the last 4 years where some companies have actually created online content for anything but the beginners courses. And so that has been a growing trend, and it really has taken off, skyrocketed since the lockdown, with a lot of people thinking, well, I can't do face-to-face, so let's do online. But it does beg the question around whether you can get the right level of insurance cover, because the company that accredit my courses and who insure me as a practitioner and a trainer, they won't allow me to train online, and not fully online, and they won't allow me to do online courses than anybody else, because then they won't insure me for that treatment. But there are other accrediting bodies who will. So it's all a bit swings and roundabouts. But what I've been doing for the last 6 years with my courses is, because I think there are a lot of courses for eyelashes and they're a day long. So mine's a day long, which is a long day, but also I get students to do homework. So my courses are in 3 parts. The first part is I want you to start downloading and getting your head around the theory. So not only do they get a copy of the course book, which is say thick because it's their reference guide, but they also get modular videos as well on a learning platform. So they've already got an idea what it is they're walking into the classroom to learn. Because I can't remember my first day turning up for those eyelashes. I didn't really know what they were. I was clueless. And then it took me over 45 minutes to isolate an eyelash on a training head. And I wanted to chuck those tweezers in the corner. It was frustrating the heck out of me. And yet, you know, I've done detailed videos and actually send my students a pair of tweezers, training lashes, and I get them to set them up and just practice, especially with their non-dominant hand, because trying to get both hands to work together as a team, it can be really, really difficult. So I think to try and get the best out of, you know, to make the best use of my time when we spend time together, of course, we're going to backtrack over the theory, but I know that you've actually done some homework because they obviously do their exam before coming to see me. And it just means that we can spend so much more of the day doing more practical hands-on stuff. So I know by the time they leave that I think they're safe and competent to then go off and do their case studies. And there have been two people over the last 8 years where I've been training where I've said, okay, you've worked so hard today, well done. I know that you're not picking this up as naturally as you would love to pick it up, and for some people we just need to do a little bit of extra practice. So I've not actually signed them off to go off and do their case studies. Whereas a lot of the courses I've done, it's not a pass or fail. It's just a case of, well, yeah, there's your certificate. So I mean, I've had to turn around and say to a couple of people after sending them away with the dolly head, the practice head and lashes, coming back to see me in a couple of weeks' time, see how you're getting on with a bit of an action plan. And when they come back and they've taken a lot of chunks out of the dolly's cheeks with the tweezers, I'm kind of thinking, no, imagine if that was a real person. So it's about having those honest conversations with people, and not sure that there's enough of that in the industry. So to say, I know how desperately you want to do this, but it's just not the right career for you. Let's think about other things.
Yeah, and it's so true. And when we get into so I've been a tech now for 28 years, but prior to that, I grew up with a long line of barbers and cosmetologists and instructors and all of that ahead of me. And so I was kind of already trained in that, and I grew up in the salon and I understood that. But what I was interested in was the business side. But when I went to school, you don't learn the business side. And I didn't realize how vital it was as a make it or break it until I'd been in the industry for a while and I brought in other techs and they didn't know how to do their books. They didn't even know what should be on a business card. They didn't know how to get the clients. And we didn't have social media at the time to be able to use. So it was like, I called it the Reebok walk. I don't even know if Reebok is still in business, but it was like lace up your shoes and do the walk and go in and introduce yourself and all of that. And so it's interesting that through all the years, my career has really pivoted and changed into the business side of educating, because so many times people have a passion for the industry itself. They love what they want to do. They love the person, the one-to-one interaction. They just don't know how to run it. And that can make them fail or give them the anxiety of like, I don't know how to do this to make it as an income. And we know we have to make it as a business. You can't keep this as a hobby. It has to turn into a business. And so like what you said, you can go in and learn the skills, but there's a lot more to it. And what we're really focusing on in the industry now is trying to be universal with the cleanliness and the standards and regulations that might change. So, with that being said, when things reopen, so obviously there's going to be some changes. There might be some online courses, but you're going to have to pick what's best for you. And like what you mentioned, you guys have specific insurances that cover you. Ours is almost a choice. I do have insurance. I have 2 of them actually, but it's not mandatory, which is kind of scary a little bit. And so that ties into that business side of what do I look for? What do I do? So in your courses, do you offer that education as well? So you have sanitation, you have application, but do you offer a business side too?
Yes, I do, and quite a few, particularly people who are completely new to the industry, do take up that mentoring aspect. So yeah, so a lot of it is some very basic things, or I can put them in touch with people who know so much more about it. So certainly within our industry, you've got accountants turned beauticians, but they still do accounting, which is amazing. And of course, they
Yes.
run workshops and things like that specifically about how to do your books. So I mean, when I first started out, I was doing all my books in paper format, and there's so many different options out there, and I know what works for me now in terms of online services, but what works for me may not work for them. So I do also signpost them to people who I think have got a lot of skills, who can also help them take themselves to the next level. So certainly over the last 10 years, I've been preparing myself for the point where I am doing nothing but lashes full
Yeah.
time, even though it does feel like it's full time, and policing feels like it's full time, because I love everything I do. And but over the years, not only have I done all those sort of 30 odd eyelash courses, gone to all these conferences, and spent a lot of time on social media just seeing what the trends are, but I've also done quite a lot of business courses as well. So and picked and choose between coaches. So I do think it's really important to have somebody who can hold your hand a little bit, hold you to account, because quite often if you have an idea and you sit on it and you don't tell anybody, it's not going to grow. But the moment you think you tell somebody, then it's almost, oh, I've got to do it, and do something every day that takes you towards that goal, rather than trying to be an elephant eater and do it all at the same time. So yeah, I'm a great one for planning, and a great one for thinking, I know where I am now, I know where I want to be and by when, and I've worked out all the little steps that will get me there, and who else I need to engage around that, and try and delegate as much as I can to people around me, family and friends, but also think about the 80-20 rule as well, because I used to get so bogged down in the detail, thinking that every I needs to be dotted and every T needs to be crossed, but actually it's the 20% of stuff that's going to give you the 80% of payback. And if your time is that precious, you've got to think about where your bang for buck is, your big rewards. So yeah, there's a lot of things from policing that have stood me in good stead as well, because a lot of stuff I've been doing strategically has been a lot of research, designing, developing and implementing lots of different initiatives with lots of different people and partners, and with communities themselves. So it teaches you quite a lot of skills, particularly about how to network and how to engage, and how to kind of bring people along with you and take them along with you. So yeah, it's been a fun time.
So a couple of years ago, so my husband has always said, he tells me this every single day, babe, let your light shine. And it stems out of the Bible. There's some biblical scriptures that talk about your wife being the light and allowing her to shine. And so that turned into, I follow a lot of motivational speakers, and there was this one that kept talking about the spark, when you spark an idea or whatnot. And so I created this thing a couple of years ago called Spark, Ignite, and Shine. And it means the spark. And I've talked about this a lot lately. So you guys, I apologize if you've already heard this, but I can't help but always share it. So the spark is where you have that idea and it like illuminates for a second and you're just like, oh, what should I do with that? But like you said, unless you verbalize it and be accountable to somebody else, it never ignites. It doesn't allow people to come in and want to be a part of that spark with you. And then you get feedback, or sometimes you collaborate together, or they confirm that your spark, your idea should come to fruition. And with the ignite part, that's action. You got it. You got to do something about it. Now you've talked about it. It almost gives you that natural feel of like, oh gosh, I better do something with this, right? And then your shine is when you're giving it away. I talked about people that do like baking, and they love to bake. They do cookies and they do brownies and they do all these great things. Well, they don't bake to always keep it for themselves. They never do. What happens is they have the idea, they do the action, they shine when they share it. They shine when they give it away. People who sew, I go, they don't sew and make quilt after quilt after quilt to keep them. What happens is they'll keep one, or they keep the ones that they think have faults to them, and then they do the action, they build it, and you know what, they give them away. It's unreal. There's so many, like my husband, like you being in law enforcement, there are ladies who make these cutest stuffed animals out of towels, and they
Mm,
give them to law enforcement to give to the kids when, you know, when they see them. They also make
mm,
quilts and blankets to hand out. And so the trunk of my husband's his deputy vehicle has a storage area that has blankets and stuffed animals and little things that people have made because that's their shine, that's their way of giving out.
mm,
So do not sit on the spark. It's time for you to voice it and say, you know, I've had this idea, it's been with me for a while, and I'm ready to, you know, ignite that. And then when it comes to fruition and you're handing out that goodness and you're handing out, you know, and allowing more sparks to happen, like your idea with Behind the Mask, your spark and the work you've done, and now you're shining, but now you're sparking it for other people to be able to go, I want to help, right?
mm,
That's the shine continuing on. So your rays are like everywhere. And
mm,
so anyways, I couldn't help but share that because when you said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the spark, ignite, and shine. And you're doing that. And when you give, you can't help but get excited about what you do, and you want to do more because you feel appreciated, you feel
mm,
needed. We all need to feel needed.
yeah,
There's no doubt with that. And so whether you're needed for a cookie, or you're needed for a warmth and of a blanket, or you're needed just for somebody to talk to release to, we all need to feel needed, but we have to also be needed. Does that
mm,
make sense? So it's hard for, like, I want to help other people, but sometimes I forget to ask for the help myself. So I have to open up too sometimes and go, okay, I need this help. And there's people out there that are experts in their field that want to help. And
mm,
it's finding the right mentors, like we said, whether it's for your business or it's finding the right people to connect with to help put you into a safe role, like, you know, with your Behind the Mask.
mm.
And so it's just that connection of always being open as well to other people. I love it. You got me going.
Bless you. I was smiling as you were talking about the sparks, because my husband smiles and my business coach has had to rein me in so many times, because I can go through a day and come up with 2 or 3 really great ideas and think, I could run with this now. But if I run with everything that I've got in my ideas bank, I'll never get anything done. So I try to start one thing and finish one thing, and
Mhm.
yeah, to just decide which is the best thing to go for, and which things I just need to park for today, or perhaps give them away.
Mhm. Yes, yes. And there are people who want it. There's so many
Mm,
people are like, what can I do to help? And we're like, I got it, I got it. And so they don't feel needed, but yet we
mm,
need them, but we might not realize it. So I never turn anybody away. I turn it back and say, well, tell me what you're good at, what you want to help with, so that I
mm,
can help put you into the right role that helps lift you. Because sometimes, like for instance, if somebody said, Amy, or if I message somebody and say, hey, can I help? And they put me into a role, like this happened. I used to be with the Chamber of Commerce.
mm,
When I very first got on the board, they automatically put me in as the person to write the minutes for the meeting, like the secretary of it.
mm.
I was absolutely awful at that job. That was not a use of my skills. I'm a verbal person. To sit there and rewrite what people said in a meeting was like torture to me. So ask to help somebody with your expertise. Don't be a part of something that you're not going to shine at, because somebody else will shine and they will love
Mm,
that. They will thrive in that.
mm.
And so find the right fit for you. I did end up finding the right fit for me, and it was not the secretarial role. So I do want to give a shout out. There's so many people watching, and I love that it's I see US people. I see like Layla's on here, and she's over in the UK with you. And so you guys, thanks so much for watching. If you didn't watch the beginning of this, this is one of those tech talks that has blown my mind, and I learned a lot more. And I really want you to rewatch the beginning, where Julie talks about Behind the Mask and what her organization is about and how we can team up together with our industry to be able to promote that, because it's powerful. And once again, we just talked about stepping into a role. There are some roles that we can take to be a part of what Julie's created, and we can fill where we feel needed on a very powerful level. And so thank you for creating a platform for us to unite like that. Anita's like, preach it, Amy. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, and then there's some love on here for you. Great ideas. So if you guys have questions for Julie, this is your time to ask. Or if you want a private, can they private message you, or do you want them to contact you with an email?
Yeah, they're more than welcome. Yes. Yeah. So
Okay.
on Facebook, I'm Julie Pearson Knight, and also on Instagram as well. So you can message me through there. It's elite.eyelash.extensions. Or you can find Behind the Mask on Instagram as well and message me through there, through either Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Thank you for that so much. So one of the questions I'm kind of curious at everywhere, and it's the number one question that's going on right now, is what do you think the industry will look like when we get to reopen? Do you think you're going to have like all these clients like, I need in like yesterday? And how are you going to schedule your clients and pre-interview them before they come in? Like, what are you going to do to reopen your business?
I think I'm very lucky because all my clients, my books have been closed for many years. So all my clients, I've known them for at least, probably the youngest one is 7 years. So I know exactly when they like their appointments. So I know what their work schedules are. I know what they do for a living. I know whether they'll be furloughed. I know whether they'll be working from home or going back to work. So I can practically guess on day one who I will be able to schedule in and when. And I'll also know that there'll be a handful who will say, I know you'll have people who are desperate, Julie. I'm not so desperate because I'm retired. And yeah, so I will be considered around it.
Yeah.
And I've got people who it's all about their image, and that's very important to them. So and it's absolutely brilliant. I don't know about everybody else, but every one of my clients has been absolutely amazing. Of course, I have used this time to stay in touch with them too, because I mean, I know it's a lot of people say, well, you know, client and our relationship should all be very professional. But I think once you get to know people and they're seeing me 18 times a year, you really do get to know people, don't you? So quite often on their birthday, I'll message them and sing a happy birthday song, and it might be with an emoji because I know that will make their day. And
I call it my best worst voice. I do the happy birthday. I leave it in a voice clip for them, and it is the worst, howliest, gross happy birthdays. Because I'm like, everybody always like puts on their best voice and their sweetest little, you know, pictures. Oh no, I go the opposite end. I make it like they'll remember if I sing happy birthday to them. But I love it. We do. They become our family. You know, it's interesting. Something that's new that happened to me. So like you know, I've been full. My clientele's been there. But I don't everything I was going to teach, all the school classes, schools, everything that we were doing has been canceled. So my book is now open for the rest of the year. And I thought, do I build up more clientele? And I thought, I cannot build up more clientele because that's going to be a temporary thing. And when I get back into the education side of it, I can travel. What am I going to do with all those clients? So I thought, okay, I cannot do that. But there's this campaign going around because all the essential workers, so from your grocery store workers that are working extra hours, the nurses, the, you know, doctors and all of that, they want to support salons. So they are buying gift certificates, the hospital called, they're buying gift certificates to give out to the employees. So that's a temporary thing that I can do when I can reopen to give back and pamper those people. They're supporting my business as well as, you know, you're supporting the person that was the essential worker that did that. But I also know it might just be like a one-time service. And so I haven't accepted any of them because I called them back and I was like, I can do this as a one-time thing, but I can't keep them on my books for my clientele. And they're like, no, we understand that, but we're reaching out. We want to support you. And it's like, what a phenomenal idea. And I know that there's been posts going around on Facebook doing the same thing. And so, if you want to, or if you want to gift it, you can call your local grocery stores or the local hospitals, women's shelters, or whatever, and say, I'm going to be reopening soon, and I want to hand out 5 gift certificates for you to give out to people who you really feel would need this pick-me-up, and then utilize that to be able to give back and say thank you. And so again, just another great resource that we can be to be able to, shine. So
absolutely. It's funny you said that about gifting to shelters and things like that. When we first went into lockdown in the UK, I said I get quite a lot of personal stories from people on email about behind the mask. The first person to actually say, I'm in touch with my local refuge and I'm offering anybody who wants treatments when we're able to get back to work. It doesn't matter what it is, anything that will brighten their day. And Alicia, I had tears coming down my face. It was like, oh
yeah.
God, it's just such a beautiful thing to do for other people.
Mm-hmm.
It was just amazing.
We started in our salon years ago. We started, and I got the idea out of Nails magazine in the early 90s. It was called Mammals, Manis, and Massage. And it was about using our voice from a woman to remind them to get their regular checkups and stuff. And then Women's Wellness worked with us and gave us these vouchers for free. That was a part of the Susan G. Komen Foundation, where they can go get a free mammogram, or it would cover what their insurance wouldn't cover. And then if they were detected, it would cover their travel to go to the next closest facility for their treatment. It would cover some of their wages if there was lost wages. I mean, it's an amazing program, and it's still going, even though I don't live there anymore. My girls that work for me kept it going. It's been going for over 20 years. And so, I mean, we really can create these movements. One of them that we started a while, oh my gosh, it was probably early 2000s, was called Be the Change. And instead of just saying what you want to do all the time, you act like, I want to help people. I want to build women's confidence. I want to do this. We're like, well, when are you going to do it? When are you going to be the change? Instead of say the change and speak it, when are you going to be it? And so we had started this movement with Be the Change. And it's amazing because a lot of people use that still today, and I love it. And it means like, quit talking about it and just do it. And so if you really want to be the change and you really want to help, you always say, I want to help just one person. Well, you can be that change. And the best people to help right now are those ones that are in shelters, those ones that are broken and they don't know how to do anything else. And they're not around people who inspire them. And maybe they don't have family support and they've lost their friends or they've had to isolate themselves. Those are the ones that need the change. Oh, I'm going to get emotional. Those women need the change the most. And here's what we did in our salon. We wouldn't bring them in at the peak time when we were busy. We brought them in after hours. We let them be comfortable with us. They don't know us, and here we are gifting them something. They don't know how to accept it. There's a lot of uncertainty and, anxiety that goes with that. So we would bring them in. We would get them something nice. Sometimes we always had some clothes there too that we would help them, like if they needed to get a nice outfit for themselves, period, or a nice one for an interview. We were a resource for them. And we used our salon as that resource. And so my girls were amazing at always pulling together, and we would pull somebody in and we would pamper them. We would do everything we could to like just build them up and let them know what their strength is. They don't know what their strengths are, and we don't know them to easily share that. But we're like, what do you like to do? And it's amazing how many of them love to like cook. And we're like, you can do that. And they're like, I don't have a kitchen. Okay, well, why don't you volunteer at a church? Well, why? And they don't know. So you just start giving them these ideas, and they're like, I can do that. Well, I can do that. And then pretty soon they're coming in because they have the money, and they're just like, I want to give back to you. I want to pay for a certificate for you to do that for somebody else. And that is being the change, and that ripple effect that just goes on and over and over. And it's where my heart has always been in our industry, that I know that we can give up back bigger than who we are. Sorry. But that's the power that we have, and that's us stepping into our role and allowing. Sometimes we need that help, so it's allowing the help, but it's allowing us to be vulnerable enough to help somebody else, and it's huge what
It's
we can
amazing.
do. Ah,
I
love it.
love hearing that.
Yeah. Well, Julie, you're setting this foundation to I know will ignite into something a lot larger than you probably ever imagined. And like I said, you'll probably never know the impact that you're creating. Um, but I'm so glad that you were able to come on today. I just found you through Facebook a while ago. You know, we scheduled this, and actually I had messed up. What was it in June? Was it in February? Yeah. So you guys know I booked these like 3 months in advance, and I messed up on an event and I put it for, I think that day or something like that on accident. And Julie was like, I thought we scheduled this for like in April. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's already out there. So I had to backtrack and, try to fix this. And so, you know what though? If that live would have happened a few months ago, it wouldn't have the same impact. So I love the blessings of how things, I kid you not, I'm blown away every time I bring somebody on months later and the day they're spotlighted, how it's so needed that day and that time period more than ever. And it blows my mind every time. So Julie, again, the blessings that have come for you to be able to share your platform today rather than the mistake I had done in February. So thank you.
No, seriously, thank you for inviting me, because you're doing an amazing thing helping to spread the word about this free resource that could help to change somebody's life or even save it.
It's because your heart is in it and you're all in, and we can feel that. And I can tell you, I want to be a part of it. So thank you for allowing us to, I ride your rainbow. You're developing this and we just get to go for the ride. So thanks for creating a platform like that. So again, guys, if you have not watched the beginning of this Tech Talk, I want you to rewatch the beginning of it. It's definitely about behind the mask is, in short, how would you describe, like, how would you describe it? Not just for domestic, but what's your
Yes,
like mission?
yeah, so Behind the Mask is free online training for anybody in the hair and beauty industry, but ordinarily any industry who work with clients, that can help you spot the signs that somebody may be experiencing domestic abuse, but importantly, what you can do to help in a meaningful way.
I love it. It's perfect. Thank you, Julie, so very much. And so I'm not quite sure when your retirement date is, but I know that my husband pretty much he knows, like he can tell you, like in this many months, years, whatever, that I'm gonna be retired. Do you have your countdown of your retirement from law enforcement?
Yes, 148 days. Can't
Well, yeah. Well, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you're continuing to do. Congratulations on one retirement and starting into a whole other world. But I love how your past has brought you to your future and you've been able to utilize all of that together. Thank you for being a voice for us as well. Thank you for your time today as well, too.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And I can see somebody already says they're going to be able to watch the beginning. So wonderful. And this is one of those tech talks. So guys, know that our group is private. And some of these tech talks have to be shared publicly. Like this is one of those and so after we're done, I always download it and I'll upload it onto the YouTube channel. That's just under my name. It's not there to, like, I never ask people to subscribe. It's not about that. It's about using it as a resource to share out that information onto your pages publicly. And this might be one of those that I would say, please share this out. So once I download it, you'll see in a couple of hours, I'll share it on my personal page as well. And then Julie, I'll send it to you as well. And I think this is absolutely one of those that we need to share this word and we need to bring people to your spotlight today. So again, thank you guys who are watching or going to participate this. And Julie, thank you. There's so many thank yous that I could give you. I love it. I'm so glad that we found each other through social media.
Yeah, the world is such a smaller place because of it, isn't it? It's incredible. It's amazing. It's a
Yeah.
gift.
Yeah.
Used in
And
the right way.
tell your husband, I was teasing her husband earlier that he could come on and talk about what it's like to have his wife working from home all the time now. And he was pretty much like, nah, this is for you guys. So tell him that we said hello and thank you for supporting you and following your dreams and to be able to make this come to fruition, because we know that our family members have to support us in our business for our passion. And so that we can give that time freely as well. So
Yeah,
you might want to tell him that Amy just sent him a big old thank you.
I will, and I will thank him as well, because I think he'll have dinner waiting for me in a moment. So I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky.
Oh, perfect. All right. Well, you guys have a great week. We know that there's a lot of things going on. Some places are being able to do soft openings. Really pay attention to what the rules and regulations of your area are so that you're not fined, and get into some of those iffy things. Julie, again, thank you for being a special guest today. And guys, have a great week and just enjoy this moment of gift of time before we go into our chaos mode again. So all right. Have a great day.